Okay, so here we have the display mode, which is the default screen that you'll find. Right here we have a red square in the corner. It's going to show any errors. Likely when you start up the machine, it's going to have an error and it's going to say exactly what it is. For instance, here it says left door open. All you have to do is close the door or whatever the screen says, and you'll notice it turns green. Once it turns green, you can confirm that, press back. You'll notice there's no little red square anymore. Now, the first thing that screen when you press this menu button, you're going to see selections here on the left-hand side: abrasive belt and disc, abrasive belt only, disc only. It's pretty self-explanatory. You want all the belt and the disc working, you have selection number 1. Only the abrasive belt. For instance, if you were trying to put a decorative grain on something, you wouldn't want the disc on there, or disc only. Now that's if you were to do smaller parts and you didn't necessarily need the abrasive belt to remove more material. So the screen that you see here, it says no workpiece on the feed belt. Green is go, red is no, or red is no go, which is do I in fact not have workpiece on there? Yes. Okay, so now you can see here in comparison to the other screen that it only shows the discs. The abrasive belt has disappeared. If I go through and I change it to the abrasive belt only, you will no longer see the discs on this side. We're going to change it back to this screen so that we have all the selections available. The first thing that I want to show you is the material thickness. Now, menu, and you're going to have to go to program and then the material thickness. Now you can put in whatever material thickness that you need to here. For instance, 1/8 inch material, and then it'll show the actual height of the machine here, the workpiece thickness. Now you'll notice that it doesn't change immediately. There's a green button which starts the machine below this screen. If I press that, it will automatically bring it down to that thickness. All right, the next thing that once that settles, the next thing that you'll see is the abrasive belt speed. We can turn the abrasive belt on or off. So if we turn that on, we will find that we can now change our cutting speed. 35 feet per second is a good place to start, but you might find that you need to slow that down a little bit or speed it up for your particular application. The pressure is a way for us to add a little bit more pressure to the abrasive belt or a little less depending on what your situation is. You put the first piece through and you find, well, I need a little bit more pressure to the abrasive belt. And you can add 44 thousandths of an inch at a time. Now you might find that you put a piece through and, well, it's grinding a little bit too much on it. So you want to pull a little pressure off of that. That's what that indication is for. Next we'll go to this button. Now this is the disc feed on the in feed side and out feed side. You can independently turn them off and on. You can also change the RPM of those discs. The low end is 400, the high end is 1700. We find that the first set of discs, 1000 RPM is a good starting place. On the second disc or the brushes, we find that 1200 RPM is a good place to start them at. Now, the other red button that we have here is the oscillation. The oscillation moves the disc back and forth throughout the machine, across the conveyor belt. We can independently turn that on and off. Now you'll see a percentage here. The percentage is the speed at which that oscillation goes back and forth on the machine. The lowest you'll find is 20%. That's going pretty slow across there, and then it does go up to 100%. Between 60 and 70% is where we find most situations take us. Now just below that you'll see the oscillation stroke. There is a short stroke and a long stroke. The long stroke goes across the entire width of the conveyor belt. The short stroke is restricted to the center of the conveyor belt. For instance, if you're doing long thin parts that need lots of work done, or you're utilizing the magnets in the machine and it does you no good to be on the outside of the conveyor belt, that's where the short stroke is. The far majority of the time the machine will probably live its life in long stroke. if we go back here, the last thing that we have here is the feed speed of the conveyor belt. Now we can turn that off and on. Generally speaking, you're going to be somewhere between 5 and 10 feet per minute as far as a feed speed for deburring. And if you're doing a decorative grain on something, you're going to be wanting to be much faster, like 20 feet per minute. Now you'll also see here that there's a hold down rollers. It is indicated below that if you have shorter work pieces, something that's 14.5 inches or smaller, you're going to want those pinch rollers up. And if it's longer than that, you're going to want those pinch rollers down. Now, now that we've gone to the programming screen and everything has changed green, we can exit this and exit this. Everything in the display mode is set to green. We can then start up our machine, and the abrasive belt will kick on, the disc will turn on, the oscillation will start, everything is ready to go at this point.